Hello everyone, welcome back. We once again have a plethora of very wordy tweets from James Gunn regarding the DC Universe. I'm not exactly sure what order these all go in because they're just being shared everywhere on social media, so I'm just going to read them and we'll talk about them a little bit. Okay? See if we can make some sense out of all this nonsense. So in response to a fan talking about what's canon and how is Blue Beetle supposed to fit in with the new universe, and some fans are confused, some things they say are contradictory, some things they say from DC. He said, "Nothing is canon until Creature Commandos next year, a sort of aperitif to the DCU, and then a deeper dive into the universe with Superman Legacy after that. It's a very human drive to want to understand everything all the time, but I think it's okay to be confused on what's happening in the DCU since no one has seen anything from the DCU yet. And yes, some actors will be playing characters they've played in other stories, and some plot points might be consistent with plot points from the dozens of films, shows, and animated projects that have come from DC in the past. But nothing is canon until Creature Commandos and Legacy." Okay, so he said a lot of things, but I don't know that they don't make much sense when you put them all together. On one hand, I can see what he's saying, and on the other hand, I don't see what he's saying. Because just a lot of times when he answers things, when he responds to things on Twitter, it's like it contradicts something that he said before. And this thing about it's okay to be confused since no one has seen anything from the DCU yet, I don't think just because okay, we'll say when Creature Commandos come out, Superman Legacy, that's just going to clear everything up and people are not going to be confused anymore? No. Seeing stuff from the new DCU doesn't mean you're not going to be confused anymore. It's confusing because they're keeping some people around and some people they're not. That's what's confusing. When he's talking about some actors will be playing characters they played before, and some plot points might be consistent with other plot points from the dozens of films, TV shows, and blah, 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 I feel like he's referring to his characters and his plot points, his stories that he's done in DC. Probably not anyone else's. That's what I think. Because really the only people we know that are sticking around so far, which he also confirmed again today, are Amanda Waller, played by Viola Davis, John Cena playing Peacemaker, Xolo Maridueña playing Blue Beetle, which he wasn't under his, Suicide Squad's cast, but we recently got that movie, and he said again that he will be continuing on in the new DCU, in the new DC universe. Most of the characters that we know are continuing on are his characters that he's brought in. Another fan said, "Seriously though, why should we invest time and effort in yet another shared universe? Just build on what's already there with slight course corrections as needed." It's a valid point. If you think of anything as investing time and effort, no matter what shared universe, you definitely shouldn't be. This is James Gunn responding. "Every story should be enjoyed and worth partaking in and of itself, without its attachment to an outside world. If it feels like homework, screw it. Shared universes should add fun to the individual stories, not the other way around. The individual stories and characters are much more important to me than the connections between them." I see both sides to this. I understand what the person is saying here that's interacting with James Gunn, because a lot of fans feel this way. A lot of fans feel like, why are we going to invest in a whole nother new universe when the previous universe did not really get a proper send-off or a proper, there's no closure to it, which he said in his little, Gods and Monsters announcement that the Flash would reset everything. I personally did not get that perception. I didn't get that from the movie at all. I don't think a lot of people did either, really. So they didn't close off the first. When you don't have a proper ending or closure to one universe, it's weird to just start a new one. Especially if some actors are sticking around to play their previous roles and their stuff is consistent, but all these new people that are being cast in and all these new is not like it. I don't see how they're supposed to avoid audience confusion with doing that. I understand what James Gunn is saying about not everything has to be connected. That's fine. But, I do think it's weird to have some people sticking around and that stuff is still consistent with what happened before, and then other people are new or recast, or it's like a new version of that character and their stuff is, you know what I mean? That's just, I don't feel like you can avoid audience confusion that way. He also responded to You know, the fact that the Writers Guild of America, their strike is over. There's a list of things that they got in their deal with the studios, and I'm glad that they were getting the things that they asked for. So that's great for them, and I'm glad that they were able to, you know, come out on top of that. So he was asked about like what to expect now that the strike is over, and he said, I don't even know where we are with everything, as I haven't been able to talk with our writers while this has been happening. That makes sense. Although I'm very happy with the outcome, the strike was a real wrench in the process for sure, so I'll have to see where we are and everything for the next couple weeks. But yeah, I'd imagine more news coming out in the not too distant future. So that makes sense. He also responded earlier to like what he could do during the strike, which he said he could direct, but he couldn't write. So there were, you know, things like that, you know, he probably has to catch up with the writers and people in that department to see where they are and things and whatever. But like he said, I'm sure we'll be hearing about that more in the near future. But overall, the whole thing about the canon is just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I feel like he tries to say a whole lot of things in responses to people. He says a lot and says nothing at the same time. Fans are going to bring up things that he has said before. And they're going to say, but what about this? But what about that? And yes, things change. And obviously, if they're building out a new universe, changes will happen. You know, not everything works out clearly the way sometimes they think it will at the beginning of, you know, starting a new universe within a franchise. And I get that. First, he was kind of saying like, you know, the Flash resets everything. And then Blue Beetle is the first character in the new DCU. Superman Legacy is the first movie in the DCU. Now nothing is canon until Creature Commandos and Superman Legacy comes out. So I don't know. It's all over the place. And I feel like he said it's okay to be confused, but I think it feels like he's just as confused as the fans are. And it feels like the fans, the people on social media, they keep track better of stuff that he has said than he does. Like, he can't even remember things that he has said before. Someone calls him out on it, and then he thinks of like some wordy response that doesn't make any sense. He says what he thinks will just kind of like appease people at the time. Oh, well, this really means this, and this really meant that, and I didn't mean this when I said that. And there were some other tweets and stuff like that being shared from him today, but that was kind of the gist of what people, you know, what was going on. And then the whole, you know, Gal Gadot's coming back. No, she's not. Yes, she is. No, she's not. And all these conflicting stories about that. You know, he has said things about some of the previous cast members that he seems very optimistic about. And like, oh yeah, we're doing this. Yeah, we talked about this. Yeah, we met specifically for this reason. And then those people come out and they have like the opposite to say. Henry Cavill, Ben Affleck. Gal Gadot seems to think that she said what they told her. But then there were stories coming out that that's not what happened. And, you know, they might have told her something to her face. And then behind the scenes, something else is going on, which I would not be surprised. I feel like they might, you know, want certain things to come out that make it seem like certain people are sticking around because they want to hold on to those fans. But in reality, it's not going to actually happen. And I hope they're not doing that to her. That's not fair. But at the same time, it is strange to have some people sticking around and others not. And I don't really know how you go from there. I just think it's a mess. If they thought DC was a mess before, it's definitely a mess now. But you know, some interesting hot topic of the day wanted to share in the channel. And again, congratulations to the WGA for getting their deal so they can finally get back to work and get the compensation. And, you know, it has some other stuff to do with AI and all that, and I might cover that on the channel, but that requires a separate video. So make sure you subscribed, have the notification bell turned on so you are aware when I post a new video. And definitely want to give a big shout out to the supporters on my channel. I passed 5,000 subscribers, and I'm so thankful for that humble milestone. So thank you guys again for all the support. Yeah, we'll continue to keep up with all of this tea. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you soon.